Thanks, Jamie, an absolute legend. Sarah Henshaw is an experienced myeloma nurse specialist in Nottingham, and Sarah was instrumental in developing the myeloma nurse nursing group for the UK Myeloma Society. Sarah's done many things over the years. We've worked together in many projects, and to recognise her outstanding contribution to myeloma clinical care, she was elected a Fellow of the College. So Sarah unfortunately can't be with us this morning, but she's online to give us some reflections on her career. So thanks, Sarah, for joining us.
Hi, and sorry I can't be there with you today. Unfortunately, I've had to remain in Nottingham at work. I'm honoured to be invited as the first nurse to join the College of Myeloma, and the next 10 minutes I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my reflections on my career in myeloma, what brought me to being a nurse, and who's inspired me along the way. Next slide, please. So the first thing is a little bit about me and what's kind of kept me sane over the years since becoming a myeloma nurse specialist. I have my beautiful dog Bella, who's a lovely cockador, and without her, sometimes at the end of a working day, I wouldn't have the ability to go out and have a walk and have a reason for going out, having a walk and having fresh air. My family obviously means the world to me, and I want to thank both my husband and my son for the support over the years, whilst they've been the ones that have been sat at home whilst I've been banging away on a computer, completing assignments and all this kind of stuff for my career. I don't know whether to thank Notts County or not, but I'm a season ticket holder, and that is my way of relaxing at the weekend, but I wouldn't call it relaxing with the way that things have gone over the years with Notts County. Things with Notts County over the years haven't gone as well as what they have with myeloma. Next slide, please. So where did my career begin? So I qualified in 1997, and my main inspiration for becoming a nurse was my mum that you can see in that photo there. And I think the thing about my mum being a nurse and how she inspired me into going into myeloma is her background was working in ED and in trauma orthopedics in the 1970s. And back in the 1970s, some of the conversations that I had with my mum was around care of patients with myeloma coming in on the trauma orthopedic wards with severe fractures, cord compressions, those kinds of things. And back then, there really wasn't many treatments for myeloma, and the outlook wasn't very good. So she has some quite harrowing stories when we talk to her. When I qualified with a diploma in nursing. So over the years, I've had to go on and complete my Bachelor of Science degree and my MSc, all whilst working full-time. The latter courses were whilst working full-time as a myeloma CNS, so doing the non-medical prescriber course, doing my MSc, and history taking and clinical examination skills were all whilst working as CNS. Next slide, please. So I've thrown this in. Why I'm showing this nationally, I do not know, but this was my first day in my uniform as a newly qualified nurse about to embark in my career in haematology, and that buckle that you can see on my belt is the same buckle that was in the previous photo from my mum. She handed that down to me when I qualified as a nurse, and I think it's really sad these days that we don't see as many nurses wearing buckles because of the infection risk. Next slide, please. So career to date, my first job was in a local district general hospital on a haematology ward, which at the time was actually mixed in with dermatology, respiratory and stroke. So it was an unusual combination of medical patients alongside the haematology patients. And at that time, we also did the acute leukemias. So we had neutropenic patients in one side room at the side of a patient with severe psoriasis and MRSA and all this kind of stuff. And that was back in 1997. I quite quickly got promoted to what was called a primary nurse in those days, a year later. And then in 2001, there was a nurse specialist called Mary Greening, who had been a haematology nurse specialist for many, many years. She's now retired. And she said to me one day, she put an advert in front of me and said, if you are interested in haematology, then you should apply for this job. And that was the job at Nottingham University Hospitals, or City Hospital as it was then, on the haematology and bone marrow transplant unit. From working there, I went on and became clinical educator. Really enjoyed that job because I love educating people about new things in nursing and in myeloma treatments. And then in 2007, I was appointed as myeloma clinical nurse specialist at Nottingham. Next slide, please. So after I was appointed by Dr. Cathy Williams, consultant haematologist, and I would say that she's my biggest inspiration for the nursing service at myeloma from the get-go. I remember her saying to me on my first day that when she came to Nottingham to work as a consultant in myeloma, that one of the other consultants, she approached them and said, we need a myeloma nurse specialist. And that consultant said, what do we need one of them for? That said consultant, once I was in post, realised exactly why he needed a myeloma nurse specialist. So all I can do is thank Dr. Cathy Williams for all the support and help that she's given to me over the years. She's now retired and I do miss her dearly at work. Next slide, please. So when I first started in treatment, I think Dr. Cavan has explained very well how treatment has changed over the years. But from a nursing perspective, when I applied for my job in 2007, there were only a couple of lines of therapy available at this point. And people with myeloma weren't living as long as what they are nowadays. And at the beginning, when I applied, one of the key skills that they wanted me to have was symptom management and palliative care skills, having worked in that area or have completed courses. In the present day, that's changed because of the way that there's multiple lines of treatment available and survivorship's becoming more of a focus with myeloma patients. So the focus on skills for the nurse specialist has changed along that time. So we've moved more into long-term management of the condition as well as symptom management. Palliative care skills are still there because unfortunately, as we know, we can't cure myeloma at the moment, but it's not as much of a focus. There's also management of late effects and long-term consequences. Next slide, please. So when we think about the changing role over the years as a nurse specialist, at the very start when I started, it was very much about information giving for the patients, for staff in the hospital, for family members, being a patient advocate, being the main contact for the patients, symptom management of the treatments and the myeloma, psychosocial support, organisation of patients' appointments, supporting patients in medical clinics, being a member of the MDT and advocating for patients in the MDT, organisation of peer review and making sure that we was meeting all the criteria of that, and training and education of other healthcare professionals. Next slide, please. So moving on to the present day, how that's changed because of all the new treatments. It's been a massive learning curve. Each time a new treatment comes out, as a nurse specialist, we have to develop new patient information for the new treatment. We have to get educated on it. We have to educate staff within the unit. We've developed nurse-led clinics, and over the years I've developed nurse-led clinics in symptom management, in chemotherapy prescribing, asymptomatic clinics, MGUS clinics, all to try and help the load and support the medical team at Nottingham. We're also moving into the management of long-term consequences of living with myeloma and supporting patients as they are getting more complications the longer that they are living with the illness. We've now moved into radiology requesting, non-medical prescribing, including of chemotherapies, history taking and clinical examination skills, and having my own caseload of patients that I manage and present cases to the MDT when there's problems with those cases. Next slide, please. So I think to conclude, the nursing role has changed massively in the years that I've been working in myeloma, and it's predominantly down to the fact that patients are surviving longer. The positive of that is patients are surviving longer. As nurses, we get to know patients better, so that when they are moving into end of life, that means that we know them well and we can organise a good death. Also, what's bright about the future is what I hope over the years, with everything that I've done through the UKMS, is that I've been able to inspire other centres that deal with myeloma patients and nurses that look after myeloma patients to make sure that we get more myeloma specific nurse specialists out there, because this group of patients really do need specific nursing support. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for such a comprehensive overview and for all the contributions you've made to myeloma over the years, in particular the formation